Okay, year seven. So we're busy doing a selfie piece of work at the moment. So last week we asked you to take a selfie. Here's my lovely face. And have a look at doing a line drawing. So we said to do it on A4 paper, but one of the things I want to point out is the fact that if you don't have drawing paper at home, it's perfectly fine. Use whatever you've got access to. It could be old envelopes, lined paper, whatever it is. So we did a line drawing last week. What I'd like you to do this week is look at either shading, colouring, or possibly using something a little bit different. So comes to shading with your pencil. Ideally, you need a B pencil, but if you haven't got one, use whatever you've got. And just remember with your shading, like we've done in class, we have that tonal range from black right the way through to white that we can use on our piece of work. So I'm going to do different sections. Now I'm doing a different material in each one to show you. You're going to choose one and just do the whole thing in one. So it just depends on what you've got access to at home. So if I was going to start shading, I would probably start looking at the darkest areas first and just looking at trying to get a little bit of shading as smooth as I can using your pencil. You can blend it a little bit with your finger and just start looking at where you can see those shadows. But remember, shadows go from dark to light. So by taking the pressure off your pencil, that's going to create that tonal range. Also, you need to keep looking at the picture that you've taken and compare your tonal ranges. So this bit behind my teeth here is a lot darker than the teeth on the front, but there's still a little bit of a tonal range on my teeth. So I'll just take the pressure off my pencil. So I'm still getting a little bit of a tonal range, but it's a little bit softer. Use your rubber to come back in if you need to, and just take a little bit of that off. Okay. Really look at your image. Now, if you've done this on your phone, what you can do, sorry, just got a message on that. You can zoom in, obviously, and you can have a look a little bit closer. But sometimes the danger of doing that is you don't actually then look at the tonal ranges and compare them one to another. But it can help you. Looks quite scary on there. We had quite a bit of fun in the department doing our different selfies. So started working there on my teeth. So we're trying to give this illusion of 3D. Now when I look at my lips, there's actually a bit of the lip that goes in there. And then as it comes out, it's going to get lighter quite quickly. So when you're working with pencil, especially on the face, sometimes you don't actually need that much pencil on there to start creating that tonal range. The thing you've got to be very careful of is you need to start blending some of these lines in so they become part of the shadow or part of the drawing. Okay, if you end up with a really dark line around everything, it can end up looking a little bit cartoony. So I've got my chin there, then I've got a bit of a shadow as it goes onto my neck. Now we're expecting to spend an hour on your artwork, so some of you didn't spend a full hour last week on your line drawings, which means you can spend a little bit more time this week. So I've got a definite shadow that comes down there. You can spend a little bit more time this week on your drawing, but we're going to give you 2 lessons to do this because we'd like a really, really good portrait. Now, obviously, I've got all this stuff on my phone. So one of the things that I could do if I wanted to, I could start adding the little characters, the little filters on there. So I could add these, even add in, like in the middle, got the little cross that's on that button. So we can add those to our piece of work as well. So one option is to work on shading. Okay, so that's option number one. Option number two, if you've got access to them, are coloured pencils. And also, depending on the app that you have used, it might depend on the sorts of colours that you're going to use. So I've got a definite shadow coming here. Now, I don't have a definite skin coloured pencil, so pink is sort of like the nearest colour. Oops. The nearest colour that I've got to use, but you might have some skin colours at home. I'm going to mix a little bit of a yellow just to knock that back a little bit. So if you're using the coloured pencils, if you work quite lightly and work with one colour and then another colour, you actually start doing a little bit of colour mixing on your piece. Get a white pencil, just go over the top to give yourself a highlight. Okay, so if I'm going to go in for my eye, the pencil sharpener. Okay, so my eye's quite dark. So I'm going to go in with the green first because I've got green eyes. But I do need a black, which I think is something I haven't got. There's a grey. Going with a dark grey as well. If you haven't got a black, just use a pencil. So again, you're just making use of whatever you happen to have at home. Okay, so if you haven't quite got all the right equipment, it doesn't matter. The main thing we want you to do is to have a play and have a go. That's the key thing with everything that we're doing online. Okay, so then I can start shading the whites of my eyes. Now, the one thing you don't want to do straight away, which I can't remember from looking at everybody's work if you've done it or not, is add your eyelashes yet. All the little bits of detail, so the bits within your app that you've chosen, if it's added loads of different bits on, think about what you need to do first. Okay, that's really, really important. What's the order? So I tend to work from the back and work forwards. So if I need shadows, so I'm not going to put the glasses on yet. I'm just going to work on the skin colour behind. So I need a bit of a shadow. So I'm going to go on here with a brown and just start adding some shading. Okay, so I've got a little bit of shadow there, and then I can come back in with my pink on the top. So I'm not pressing on very hard with this at all because I just want a hint of colour. I don't want it to be too bright, especially because I don't have a specific skin colour. So I'm sort of going with pink for my skin colour. Okay, right, I need to work around the eyes because mine's really, really dark. So I've got quite a bit of shadow here. So I'm just going to come back in with my pencil, shading, and just working over the top. And this is basically what you're going to do if you're doing this. Okay, so that's the darkness there at that side. So you can sort of see I'm beginning to build it up. Mine's got quite a lot of shadow on it from I think the app sort of squished my face a little bit. So, and I've done that with my white again. A little bit of yellow. So you can see I'm beginning to build up the colour. And then once I've done all that background stuff, my glasses are sort of like a brown colour. Then I'll come over the top with the frame of my glasses. Now mine are my actual glasses, but I know some of you have used some of the apps that put the glasses on. So really what you do first is you do the face first and then you add the bits on afterwards. Now once my eye's finished, if it comes to eyelashes on this, because my face is screwed up a little bit, I can't actually see my eyelashes. I know that there'll be a little bit of my eyelashes coming out here, which I think is why that probably looks so dark. And I can just see a little bit there. And then I'd put that on. So that's using your coloured pencils. Now you can use anything to create artwork with. So what I've got here is I've actually got 2 cups. I've got one with a tea bag in it, and I've got the other one with coffee. So what you can actually do is you can paint with these as well. So one of the things we want you to have a look at is maybe even using non-art materials. So you're sort of still going with your tonal range with this. I'm going on there with my tea first. The coffee I've made really strong, so it's a darker colour. So then where I can see the darkest areas on my picture, then I can use the coffee to work with that. So you can use anything to create your artwork with. Absolutely anything at all that you've got access to. Now, working with the tea and coffee is lovely to give you a background. It might be that you've done loads of work on your other subjects and you want a little bit of a break. You might want to have another go at doing this again. Try a different filter. If you think, oh, do you know what? Thinking back now, the filter that I've possibly used might not be the best one, and I'd like to use something a little bit different. Have another go. Okay, who's to say that the first one that you did was the right one? Now, the only advice that I really would give with using tea and coffee is this takes a little bit longer, because what you want to do is do a section like that. So I've added some little bits on there. Grab your hairdryer. Give it a bit of a dry. My eyes gone a bit bonkers. It didn't matter. So work on this bit here. That's just blown a little bit. It doesn't matter, so I'm not worrying, which I know a lot of people do. They just think, oh, it's gone terribly wrong. It's a disaster. I need to bin it. Please don't. And what you're going to do is, as you start building up your tonal ranges with this now, you sort of start putting the tea and coffee on, and then you let it dry. Okay, so I could come up back up here with the hair. Coffee gives me my darker tone. The tea gives me a lighter tone. Okay, so you can end up with a really, really nice painting using tea and coffee. Who'd have thought? Absolutely amazing. Okay. Now, obviously, because we're doing this and we're painting, it's quite tricky to get the finer details on in there. So what I would do then, let me just give that another dry. Hold on. All right, there we go. So one of the things then that you can do is, once it's dry, is you can come back in with your pencil. Oops, it's gone off. Come back in with your pencil and you can add a little bit more detail, because it's a little bit harder to do that with your brush. Okay, so you can come back in, add some little bits of detail. Okay, so I can add a little bit more shade into my eye. You can come back in and put a little bit more tea and coffee on there. You can even then, when you've done that, if you want to, is come back in and add a little bit of pen. Now, if you're going to do the pen, you need to be really selective as to where you do it, because what you don't want to do is just outline everything in a big black line, but it can really, really help. So those are the 3 different materials that you could use. You could use anything you've got access to at home. If you've got paints, use paints. pastels, colour pencils, whatever it is. Just remember, I've shown you 3 different techniques here. You're going to choose one of them and do it over the whole of your face. Okay, so we really, really look forward to seeing what amazing faces you come up with.